feeling I'd be reviewing a new 13-inch MacBook Pro sooner rather than later. When Apple refreshed the MacBook Air back in March with a new keyboard, I knew it was only a matter of time before the company did the same for the 13-inch Pro. Sure enough, earlier this week, Apple unveiled a new model with the Magic Keyboard design already in use on the Air and 16-inch MacBook Pro. With that, Apple's laptop lineup is completely rid of the controversial butterfly keyboard. As you'd expect, a MacBook Pro refresh also means updated processors. 13-inch Pro now comes with a 10th gen Intel CPU and Intel Iris Plus graphics, at least in the higher-end models like the one Apple sent me for review. Also, the entry-level config now comes with double the storage, that's 256 gigs. Meanwhile, the high-end ones start with 16 gigs of RAM instead of 8, and there's a 32 gig upgrade option for the first time. As before, the 13-inch Pro starts at $1299, and it's available now. For this review, I'm mainly going to focus on performance and the typing experience. Spoiler alert, it's pretty great. If you've seen my review of the 2020 MacBook Air or my hands-on with last year's 16-inch MacBook Pro, you already know my thoughts on the Magic Keyboard's design. Feel free to skip ahead if you've heard all this before. For those just joining us, the Magic Keyboard was inspired by the standalone Magic Keyboard that ships with the iMac line. That's to say, both have scissor-style keycaps as opposed to the butterfly design used over the past few years. That butterfly mechanism was designed to reduce key wobble, but in practice, it resulted in flat buttons that too often either failed to register presses or, conversely, produced double presses, which is super annoying, let me tell you. In contrast, the keys here are cushier with a full millimeter of travel. We're not talking a full return to the pre-butterfly MacBook Pro keyboards that some of you have been missing, but they are noticeably deeper than the keys on the last-gen model. On the other hand, the new keys also aren't as wobbly as those long-ago ones we all remember so fondly now. This is due to two things: a rubber dome that sits just below the keycap and a design that locks the scissor mechanism into the keycap at the top of the stroke. Last note on the keyboard, like the other Macs with Magic Keyboards, this one has an inverted T arrow button layout where the right and left buttons aren't quite as tall as the up and down button stack, in theory making them easier to find by feel. I've mostly enjoyed this layout on the new Macs I've tested, though for the first time during this most recent round, I accidentally pressed the / buttons a few times when I meant to hit the left arrow. Otherwise, this is the same design as before, from the aluminum chassis to the port selection, which, by the way, includes a headphone jack and 4 Thunderbolt 3 sockets, 2 on each side. There's also the same stereo speakers as last time, the same 3-array mic, and the same 720p webcam, which served me adequately enough in my never-ending stream of work-from-home meetings. The touch bar is back too, as is the Touch ID fingerprint sensor in the upper right corner of the keyboard deck. As ever, it's easy to set up and works reliably too. As for the touch bar, I still wish it weren't there, but I've made peace with it. Mostly, anyway. The 13-inch MacBook Pro is, well, still a 13-inch MacBook Pro. As before, it has a 13.3-inch Retina display with 2560 by 1600 resolution and Apple's auto-adjusting True Tone color technology. As before, the screen supports the P3 color gamut and has a 500 nit brightness rating. That came in handy when I was working near the window on a sunny day, though I also found myself cranking up the brightness in the Apple Arcade game Sayonara Wild Hearts, just because I could. The game's neon colors and deep blacks lend themselves really well to the panel here, by the way. All of this is to say, it is a nice screen. My only concern is that if someone buys the 13-inch Pro now, only for Apple to come out with a more drastically redesigned MacBook Pro later, maybe one with a rumored 14-inch screen, that person might feel cheated. Then again, one never knows exactly what Apple is going to do. As with the new MacBook Air, Apple partially upgraded the 13-inch Pro line with 10th generation Intel processors. That's Intel's 10nm Ice Lake chips, to be exact. Now, it's that much easier to recommend with the Retina display, speakers, touchpad, battery life, and overall performance rounding out the mix. The case for choosing the 13-inch Pro over a competing Windows machine will be tougher, at least for someone who's open to using either OS. Other machines offer some combination of lighter weight, longer battery life, discrete graphics, or better specs for the money. For shoppers who have been holding out for a new MacBook Pro with a better keyboard, you can upgrade now and feel confident you're making a good choice. For folks in the market for a portable machine with decent graphics and long battery life, the 13-inch MacBook Pro is just one of several strong options available right now.